Alright, the video we're going to be doing today is on a 2011 Dodge Challenger. It's got the 3.6 liter Pentastar engine in it. I'm going to show you step by step how to remove the alternator and replace it. Some of these vehicles have an actual recall on them, some of them don't. So definitely check with your local dealer to see if it's available for your vehicle, because right now there's no parts available, so it's more of a notification. So I'm going to show you step by step how to get it off anyway. So what we need to do is we need to get to step one. Just like anything on any car, if you're doing anything electrical, there's one step you need to do and you need to do first before you do any damage to the car. Now what you need to do is, everybody, let's say it.
Disconnect the battery.
There you go. Disconnect the battery. That's the most important thing. Otherwise, you're going to be wrenching on that positive battery cable on the back of the alternator. You're going to have a few sparks. That's probably going to scare you for a second. You might scream like a little girl. Who knows what. Otherwise, you don't want to damage anything electrical by frying, shorting anything out. So of course, we're going to disconnect the battery, which on this vehicle is in the trunk. So now we'll move to the trunk and I'll show you where that is. And so now we're going to go ahead and pop the trunk. And whoa, as always, you can never be surprised what people have in here. Some days there's nothing. Some days there's, let's see, part of a tree trunk and all kinds of clothing and towels. Battery's located under the floor. We need to kind of gain access to it by moving all their stuff out of the way. Wonderful. This is just part of the job. You don't come across stuff like this all the time. If it's a cop car, you're gonna have riot gear in the trunk. Here we go. Move all that stuff nice and neatly out of the way. Hey look, we even got a bra back here. Wonderful. Now I want to show you the location of the battery. Now we got that false floor out of the way. You can see the spare tire as well as the battery. We're going to just work on disconnecting the negative battery cable and position it out of the way. Now to go ahead and de-energize all the circuits, and we ain't got to worry about causing any shorts. So now we'll go ahead and work back up under the hood. Let me give you a quick pointer. Anytime you're working on any kind of engine and you've got the drive belts and you're getting ready to take it off, you want to kind of make if you've got a picture of what the drive belt routing is, great. If you don't, get you a piece of paper, put some circles for pulleys, and give you a little basic sketch of where the belt's going to be routed. That way when you go back, you don't either put it on the wrong pulley, route it the wrong way, and spend unneeded time. So like I said on this one, go ahead and get you a little basic diagram and show where the belt's going to be, because that's the next step, taking that belt off. Any chance I get, I like to show the actual component off the vehicle. That way I can show you some of the location where the mounting items are. So for example, this will basically be how it's mounted to the block. You've got your two 13s going to the top that I mentioned about earlier. I've actually got one of them off right now. So you got your two 13s, and then you've got one more right here. It's just three of them bolting it directly to the block. There's your stud for your positive battery cable, and there's your connector for the everything that's controlled by the PCM as far as the charging of the alternator. So with that, let's go ahead and get back to getting it off. What I want to do, so you can see, I want to move this upper radiator hose out of the way a little bit. And you can see where I've got my 3/8 ratchet on the tensioner already. And here's actually your alternator. Tensioner's right next to it, directly below it. It has a square hole on the end of it, which accommodates a 3/8 drive ratchet. Now what we need to do is we're going to lift up, which basically means we're rotating the tensioner counterclockwise to release tension on the belt. As I release it, I can go ahead and grab the belt and start working it off that alternator pulley right there. And if I'm having problems there, I can take it off of another pulley as well. Whatever it takes to get this thing off. There we go, we got enough slack now. Now, all we're gonna have is a total of 3 bolts on the side holding this alternator on, and then we've got the battery cable on the back side as well as the connector. We're gonna work on getting the two 13 millimeters off up here. You see me touching one of them, there's another one directly behind it, and then we'll do the rest of it from down below. So now we've got up under the vehicle. Now you can see where's the actual alternator right here. Now, there's a belly plate that goes up under the engine, a plastic shield that's held in place by 4 10 millimeter bolts. This particular one doesn't have it anymore. It's gone for whatever reason. It just makes my job easier. Unfortunately, if it's still on there, you just need to take the 4 screws loose, bolts. It's basically the same thing as if you were changing the oil. You would have to remove it as well. So we got the bottom 13 here. Go ahead and get up on it. Start getting it loose. I ain't using nothing special other than a 13 millimeter ratcheting wrench, which I highly recommend if you don't have. Now mind you, all the weight is going to be on this one bolt. And if the car just came in, the alternator is going to be pretty hot to the touch, so try not to burn yourself. Alright, we're getting it out. And there we go. Last bolt's out. Now it's just a matter of the positive battery cable as well as the connector. Now repositioning the alternator, you'll see that there's a plastic cap that goes over the stud where the battery cable goes. That way it doesn't touch anything accidentally and arc anything. We're just going to get followed up. Right here where my finger is where that 13mm bolt's going to be. Or nut. So let's go ahead and back it out. Like I said, we're doing most of this from up under now, because that's basically the best way to get this alternator out of here is directly out of the bottom versus the top, because you've got the radiator hose in the way and the clearance is a little bit too tight. So that leaves us one last thing, the actual connector. Now it's just a matter of rotating it around where you can get to it. And it's going to have what I call the two-stage lock. It's got a centerpiece you got to slide out of the way, then you squeeze and remove it. Now I've got that connector off, and I'll show you a little closer in a minute. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and drop our alternator out of the way. Here's the connector. This item that you see bouncing around on the screen, right above it. There we go. There's your connector, and there's the red lock that I was telling you. You got to slide backward like this, and then you just squeeze in on the center section and release it. Once you reinstall it, you'll snap it in place, and then you'll slide that lock and make it to where it won't come off. As you saw in the video, it wasn't that hard to replace that alternator. It's pretty cut and dry. When you're going back with it, everything's just a reversal of removal. It's nothing special. I mean, I could show you videos of how to put it back together, but it'd be almost like taking it apart, but in reverse. So with that, just keep in mind about that battery cable. Very important. And also, if you think there's going to be a recall on your vehicle, you can call your local dealership. They're going to want your VIN number, because it's very specific from years, make, models, even the day it was made to what shift it was done at the factory sometimes. So the recall that applied to this one is actually P60, P as in Paul, 60 as in 60. Currently, today's date is February the 10th, 2015. The parts aren't currently available for it, but they're notifying customers that there is a recall on their vehicle. Some dealerships, what they're doing is they're going ahead and replacing it. Chrysler is letting them put a replacement on it for now, and then when the recall comes back in, they still have to come back to have it replaced again with the correct part for the recall. Sometimes they make some internal changes, whatever it is, engineering thing, it's above my pay scale. But nonetheless, if you're having to do this yourself and it doesn't apply to the recall, I showed you step by step. With that, I appreciate you watching my videos, and always please subscribe. And another thing, feel free to ask any questions, leave any comments, any kind of thumbs up, thumbs down is fine. With that, always stay tuned for more.